Hey everyone, welcome to Know Your Gear QA number 65. I think that's a diamond anniversary, or is that 60? 60 diamond? Somebody's gonna have to look that up for me. Diamond or for 65? If 60 is diamond, I don't know what 65 would be. What's cooler than diamonds? So, all right. I hope everybody had a fantastic week. My week was pretty good. I want to start off the show by warning everybody. I have my iMac back, the one that was in the shop last week, my brand new one that crashed. They replaced the motherboard basically, and it seems to be running fine. And I thought I had a hiccup today with it that made me a little concerned, but I have a different computer over to my side. If we lose today's live stream or anything happens, I'll restart it up and we'll start from scratch. But hopefully Mac has solved the problem, and it looks like whatever. So anyways, we'll get into it. We have questions already tapped in and ready to go, so that's good. Yeah, Shut Up, Let's Talk says Return of the Mac. Yeah, what can you do? So let's start with the first question. Flying Hawaiian says, there's a used Marshall Class 5 head at my local Guitar Center for $325. Would it be worth it to trade in my Bassbreaker 7-watt head for it? My only other amp is a Princeton Reverb. Now, two things I want to point out. First of all, I think the Bassbreaker 7-watt, in my opinion, was a better sounding amplifier than the Marshall Class 5. In fact, I actually thought if Marshall could have made the Class 5 sound exactly like the Bassbreaker 7-watt, I think it really would have killed as a product for them. That being said, I really like my Marshall Class 5 amp. I have one. It's out of view right now. It's off to the side, but it's there. Would I trade for it? No, because I think that if you want a Marshall, I think the Bassbreaker 7-watt head does that great. I had a Bassbreaker 7-watt head. I got rid of it. I don't know if I regret it. There was a lot of things I liked about it. There was a hum I really didn't love, and a lot of people talk about that hum. If you're not having that issue with yours, I would hold on to it and maybe just put that Class 5 on layaway, and then maybe because I think Guitar Center has layaway and stuff, right? Just make payment towards it, and then that way you don't have to decide that way. But so and I think they're pretty par for the course as products go. I like them both for different reasons. So, let's see. Todd Flower says, "Hey Phil, I'm mounting Danelectro 82mm pickups to my Strat. Will it affect the tone if I offset them a little to fit underneath the pick guard? Thanks." No, I'm assuming you mean the lipstick pickups. That's what I'm assuming you mean by that. And so the answer would be no, it wouldn't affect anything. What's nice about lipstick pickups is they're a bar magnet, so it doesn't matter where they position them. They're going to hear everything across the strings. And of course, anything that sticks out on the sides won't hear anything that's not a string anyways. So you're really, you're set. You're good. No problems at all. John Mannion says, "What's up, Buttercup?" Nothing. Nothing's up, Buttercup. Let's see. Next one is Robert Lewis says, "Hey, Phil, how are you?" I'm fine. I hope you're good. I hope everything sounds fine. I should have asked everybody could hear me fine and see everything good. Let's see. What's the difference between active and passive pickups other than the fact that one requires a battery? It's a great question. So first of all, the major difference between them, and we're going to talk about sound, right? There's technical differences, but the major difference between an active pickup is actually a very low output pickup. It has a very low, weak magnetic field. It puts out a low amount of power and then uses a preamp behind it to boost the signal up. So the idea behind an active pickup, for the most part, like an EMG, is that it has a very weak magnetic field that doesn't interfere with the string, whether you believe in that science or not. Sometimes I get pushback from some people that they're like, "Hey, that's all made up." I don't care if it's made up or not. I'm just talking about the theory behind what the product exists for. It exists because the idea between to me, when people think EMG, they think Metallica, they think metal. That's great, but you don't always forget David Gilmour. To me, an EMG, the David Gilmour infinite sustain is also an EMG sound. The idea that the string that it has a weaker magnetic field and therefore the string is not obstructed by that. And then because that signal will be so weak, it's boosted with a preamp that it requires a battery. So there's the main difference. Now, because it is boosted by preamp with a battery. Metallica and other bands use that to push and overload the amp, push the front end of the amp, get more distortion. So therefore the metal people kind of adopted the EMG more so than anything else. Another advantage of an active pickup, by the way, is that if you're running a long series of guitar cable, sometimes you're going to lose some of your highs. That's why you use a buffer, and an active pickup can help push that through. I've heard stories about the Grateful Dead even using EMGs first, or being one of the first bands to kind of use EMG style pickups because of the massive amounts of cable that were running across the stage. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I do know that story probably came from either that or something like that, long runs of cable on the stage, and therefore the active pickups help with that. So active pickups have a lot of uses. I have one guitar with EMG pickups, and the one reason I use it for is, one thing I love about active pickups is they tend to control the environment. In other words, they are what they are regardless of anything else. They don't hear they're very quiet. They control a lot of aspects that are going on with the guitar. So if you're in a situation where you're hearing radio frequencies from the nearby Air Force base, or your signal's getting killed by the excessive long guitar cables, active pickups can kind of save your butt. So there's as many goods as bad. It's just sometimes a preference. Okay, next question is going to be from Matt Peterson. Matt Peterson wants to know, how hard is it to bypass the coil split on a bridge humbucker of the PRS CE24? Why don't more guitars offer this option for the bridge pickup? Okay, I want to make sure I understand the question because I thought I did and then I got confused. So how hard is it to bypass the coil split on the bridge humbucker? Oh, that's easy. Okay, so all right. So Matt, if you don't know this already, almost all my guitars that have coil split, I have removed it from the bridge. So the fastest, easiest way is to, when you open up your PRS CE24 or any guitar that has coil splitting, you'll have a PRS is going to be slightly different. So I'm going to give you two scenarios so that way you guys are covered. If you have a Paul Reed Smith, and it's a Paul Reed Smith pickup, it's going to have three wires, a hot, a ground, and then of course the wire for the coil split. You would desolder the bridge pickup's wire from the coil split, which will be to that potentiometer. There'll be it'll be soldered on there. You desolder it and go ahead and just tape it off or shrink wrap it off, and you're fine. That's all you have to do to your bridge. If you have Seymour Duncan or any other pickup on the planet, you'll see two wires, most likely going to be red and white, or I'm trying to think what DiMarzio would be, because red would be hot on DiMarzio, so it'll probably be black and white. But either way, there'll be two wires soldered together, soldered to either a switch or the push-pull potentiometer. You'll just desolder them as well and tape it off. So that's all you have to do. So, and if you guys are wondering what he's talking about, I like it to where when I pull the coil split, whether it's a switch or the push-pull or a push-push, that it only engages my neck pickup. That way I'm always in humbucker mode on my bridge, so I can enjoy humbucker on the bridge, and if I want to, I can coil split before I even get to the neck. I'm in single coil mode or humbucker. To me, it's just a better option. I really don't find the need to want my bridge pickup to be single coil. So I just don't need to coil split that. So that's all you got to do. You won't harm anything. There's no current running through there. Don't worry about it shorting out or killing anyone. It won't do anything. Just like I said, tape it off so it doesn't touch, because if it touches something, it'll ground out and then, of course, split your coil, which, again, will cause no damage other than the fact that you're in infinite coil split mode now. So just go ahead and just desolder it and tape it off. But if you do have the two wires and they're soldered together, do not cut them so that they're no longer connected, because they need to be connected. So there, I hope that helps. There you go. If not, we'll clarify. Jason Wade just said, hey, all right. Hey, what's up? Okay. Hugo Hernandez said, hey guys, this is probably for everybody, but I'm answering. I'm weighing in. Marshall Origin or DSL? Neither, Hugo. I have decided I liked neither. I'm really kind of bummed out. I think if I was going to put my vibe on the NAMM show this year for Marshall, the DSL got me super pumped. I ended up not loving the new 1 watt. It was okay. The 20 watt was okay. And the Origin amps, not loving them as much either. In fact, I've decided I like my Class 5 over the Origin. So that was where my take is. So here's my take on those amps. My choice, and only my choice only. If given a choice for a good 5 watt, 1 watt amp, I picked the Class 5 over the DSL and the Origin 5 watt. If picking a good Marshall amp, tone 20 watt, I picked the Silver Jubilee 25 watt over the DSL 20 and the Marshall Origin 20. That was my choice. So, and if that's alluding that there might be a Silver Jubilee review coming, maybe. So so there you go. A lot of people requested it, and I was curious about it. And to be honest with you, I like that amp over the other ones. So I decided to go that way. Matthew King says, can you tell us about the Jazzmaster on the wall behind you? Yes, let's talk about it. What pickup upgrade, if any, would you recommend for a MIM Classic Player JM? Okay, so I have, so to answer all your questions, Matthew, this is a Mexican-made black Jazzmaster made in Mexico. So it's a MIM Classic Jazzmaster. I have no upgrades. It's 100% stock. And funny enough, I have no plans to upgrade the pickups because, believe it or not, the Made in Mexico Jazzmaster pickups, in my opinion, are not actually Jazzmaster pickups. They're ceramic, and therefore they kind of have more of a P90 kind of vibe to it. So I love this Jazzmaster. I love everything about it. Love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels. That's why I got it. It just kind of worked out, right? I had the right neck, the right feel, the right weight. It's a great guitar. And although I feel the Jazzmaster pickups have their own kind of magic, these Jazzmaster looking pickups that come in the Mexican made guitars, I think spec wise, if you look online, they probably spec closer to a P90, just look like Jazzmaster. And I like that tone. So I'm afraid to mess with it. I'm afraid to put the Jazzmaster pickups in it. So whether I do one day or don't, we'll see. But right now I love the way the guitar sounds. And I know it's because it has those ceramic pickups. So, I've had this experience before with, I have a American-made Strat over here with 3 single coils. And I don't know if I ever disclosed this, but in my bridge position on that guitar, I have a Made in Mexico Strat pickup in the bridge. And then I have Texas Specials in the neck and middle position. And the reason is the same thing. To me, the Made in Mexico Strat pickups, probably because they're ceramic, just are punchy and mid-rangey, and sometimes people don't like them because they don't sound Strat enough. If you A/B them against like the higher end Strat pickups, whether they be Seymour Duncans or DiMarzio's or insert brand here or Fender, a lot of people are like, oh, they don't sound as good. Well, good is relative. To me, the Mexican-made pickups kind of pop. They have this thicker, mid-rangey kind of sound that I like. Kind of like those lace pickups right there in that Strat. In fact, the Mexican-made pickups actually kind of sound like noisy versions of lace pickups to me. Maybe there's something in the formula, how they're made, that my ear detects that. Where they have a little bit more bass, a little bit fuller tone, a little bit muddier, not as clear because they're probably not as bright. There's a lot of stuff going on with the frequencies, but sometimes that kind of works out. So, yeah. So if I trick out a Made in Mexico Jazzmaster, it probably won't be mine. It'll probably have to be like a Sharp in my axe or something. We'll have to see. So good question. Jack in R. I'm going to say, yeah. Jack in R says, hey, Phil, it's funny. I got to look this up. Somebody put in there DKK 100. So it's the currency is wherever he's from is DKK. I have to look that up. Hey, Phil, I bought a used Made in Mexico Telly. It has been upgraded with Emerson pots. Okay. 51 Fender, no caster pickup, brass saddles, etc. But it just won't stay in tune. How can I fix it? So none of those things affects obviously staying in tune. So that's good news. The staying in tune issue is probably the nut. Nut is the majority of. Hold on a second. I just want to make sure. Okay. The nut is the majority of the time the guitar is not staying in tune. So I've said this over again. I'll say it again. I like saying it. It's something I think no one can get enough of hearing. When a guitar doesn't stay in tune, the first step is always tune, play the guitar and you go, it's out of tune. Don't just say it's out of tune. Specifically take the tuner and take notice of what exact strings are out of tune. And that'll tell you a lot. So if all the strings are out of tune, it is possible it could be the bridge. Of course, in this case, not likely because it's not a tremolo style bridge. In this case, my guess is you'll strum the telly and it'll be 1 or 2 strings out of tune, and those will be probably binding in the nut or some issue with the nut. So go ahead and either upgrade that nut, use lubricant. You can use a pencil, rub the pencil in there. So like I said, strum the guitar, figure out what strings are out of tune. Don't tune the other ones. Just take and lubricate the spots in the nut where the strings are out of tune, tune it back up. Play it again. If it's out of tune, again, notice if it's those same strings again, kind of like I said, kind of like systematically find the issue. Now, once you know your nut is perfect and you have no issues, now you can start looking at tuning keys as being a possible issue. But in my experience, it's very rarely tuning keys. Sometimes, yeah, gears can be slipping. The string could not be wrapped right. That's another biggie. If your guitar is not standing in tune, please make sure your strings are wrapped correctly and you're putting them on correctly. There's tons of videos on there on how to do that. There's 2 different methods that I use for string wrap, and both work fine. But of course, I prefer locking tuning keys, and I think it's because a lot of times locking tuning keys for me, if you put the string through and lock it, in my experience, there's no way to mess that up. Now, never say never. I'm sure somebody finds a new way to mess it up, but that's what you want to look at. So those are those issues, especially with a Telecaster. It's great. You don't have to chase the problem too far. Okay. Nathan, if you don't know, everybody, Nathan Sagne is my buddy. He worked for me, and now he works for Paul Reed Smith. And I'm going to see him soon at the PRS Experience. I might even be crashing at his pad. Depends on how it goes. He's gracious enough to allow me to. So thank you again, Nathan. So anyways, Nathan's question is, where can I find back to Basics? He's busted my chops, I think, a little bit. Back to Basics was the CD I made. It's a bass CD. I'll give you a copy, Nathan. Maybe. Depends how nice you are. So anyways, I'm sorry. He hit me off my game. And funny enough, Nathan, so you know, I'm actually getting ready to make a video, and it involves that CD and a song, and something special to me that has my son in it and all kinds of stuff. And from when he was a little tyke. And so that'll explain. It's a little too soon to talk about it, so we'll do that. But he said also thoughts on DOD and Yamaha. Okay, so if hey, and just so you know, Nathan, I have this is my what to talk about list today. And on there was Yamaha buys Ampeg. Yep. So if you guys haven't heard, Yamaha has purchased Ampeg, which means now Yamaha owns Ampeg and Line 6. I think that's a very interesting thing, because to me, Ampeg is a premium brand. I think Ampeg is a bass brand, of course, but it's a premium brand. It's up there with Marshall, right? Marshall Ampeg. Marshall Ampeg, right? Every stage in the world for a long time, Marshall Ampeg. So Yamaha buying Ampeg is a big brand name to buy, especially with having the Line 6 folks in their pocket. So you might see some Ampeg products in the future in the next couple of years, where digital modeled Ampeg guitar amps. Who knows? Maybe they're going to brand the Line 6 with Ampeg. So that happened. And DOD Digitech, which is on my list too, there was an announcement this week that they let everybody go, the entire team. So I think Tom Cruise, everybody's gone. So I don't know what's going on with that. I've heard no information, Nathan, other than they were all let go. If you guys know something, you can let me know. Sometimes the news travels differently. I didn't hear much. So there you go with that. Let's hold on. I'm going to bank these super chats real quick and scan real fast to see, because there is 760 of us hanging out this afternoon. You guys are awesome, by the way. Oh, good. Okay, so Aleka, whatever, can't say your name, says, and Crate, question mark? You know, I was thinking the same thing. So, you know, the company is called Loud. Their investment group. Loud owns or owned Mackie, Crate, Ampeg, and originally when they bought St. Louis Music Company, they owned Alvarez. They sold off Alvarez and then later sold off St. Louis Music Company, and now St. Louis Music Company and Alvarez are back together somewhere else. So they own Mackie, Ampeg, and Crate. I heard what I just told you. They bought Ampeg. I don't think they bought Crate. If I was Yamaha and I already had Line 6, would you buy Crate if you had line 6. I mean, what are you going to brand crate with? I mean, you know, I hate to say it. Like I said, I like line 6 for what they are, but I think line 6 branding wise, we can agree that even if you don't like line 6, that branding is still probably stronger than crate in most people's minds. And to be probably very practically honest, if you've picked up guitar in the last 5 years, you probably don't even know what crate is. Okay, JC Smith says, is Yamaha Guitar Group starting to resemble Gibson brands, or is it doing it smarter with acquisitions? Well, Yamaha, I mean, come on, let's be honest. There's Yamaha's a big company, okay? It's a big dollar high-end company. Like here's one. Let's see. Let's take a look. I always keep weird notes in my phone. Hold on, let's see if I got it. Hold on. Maybe. Oh, see, I thought I had it. Hold on. I don't have it in here. I usually have a list of all the major companies and kind of what their values and sales are. And for some reason, oh yeah, I do. Let's see if I have Yamaha. I don't have Yamaha on a list, but so you know, I'm sure Yamaha is probably in the $800 million range, somewhere crazy like that. So they're a big company, so I can't imagine they're going to make too many mistakes with that money. Who knows? You know, you never know. Okay. Yeah, somebody says they have 22,000 employees. Yeah, see, Yamaha's tough because Yamaha makes jet skis and guitars. And unlike what Gibson did when it got into the other field, I mean, Yamaha's other existing companies, I'm sure, are fine. You know, so I'm sure Yamaha's weakest division is probably their music division, where Gibson, their strongest division was their music division. But who knows? I mean, it's all just conjecture. I'm just guessing. So I'm not a stock market person. Yeah, Nathan asked, will Billy Sheena go back to Ampeg, being that it's that he's a Yamaha guy? Oh, that's a great question, Nathan. My guess is yes. My guess is Billy Sheena has been a Yamaha guy since the dawn of time. So, and he was an Ampeg guy who went to Harkey. And although I think Harkey brings a lot to the table, I would be shocked if he doesn't find his way back to Ampeg. So I think for the most part, Yamaha buying Ampeg. I think Ampeg got pushed aside. I was a big Ampeg player forever, and then Ampeg kind of. And you know what happened with me was I sold a couple pieces of our Ampeg gear that I personally had that I loved, and then when I decided to go back to Ampeg, they don't really offer a whole lot that I found that I loved. So, okay. Okay. All right. Let's go back to hit Mike's question. Mike's question was, Phil, can you characterize the difference in sound between a Hot Rod Deluxe and a Blackface Deluxe reverb? Yes. So I have a Blackface Deluxe. I'm assuming you mean Deluxe reverb. I have one behind me. I can't see. Sorry, guys. Yeah, it's right behind me. It's right there. Yes. I love that Blackface Deluxe. So you know, I plugged into it one day and I fell in love with it, and I was like, it sounds great, and it sounded way better than what I remember a Blackface Deluxe sounded like. And a friend of mine who's an amp builder who's super smart and super good said, well, if you like it now, we should upgrade it and put some Burr Browns in there and some orange drops and this blah blah blah, and put all this stuff in here. And I pulled it apart, and that's what that person had done to it. So that's a totally modded up and deluxed out Deluxe. It even has a actual British vintage, an actual British greenback Celestion in it that's probably 20 years old or 15 years old. So it's all worked in. So that amp's got a lot of mojo, and it's a reissue, but I think it's from the 90s or something. Anyways, it's a great amp. That being said, I still like the Hot Rod Deluxe Clean more than that amp. There's just something about that amp I like. To answer your question correctly, can I characterize the difference between the two? Yes. If you want big, huge, amazing, clean tone. The Hot Rod Deluxe is better than the Deluxe Reverb. It's fuller. The cabinet is deeper. It's got a beefier sound. It's got more wattage to keep that clean headroom. The Deluxe Reverb has just got some of that old school magic clean that breaks up and stuff. So if I was going for the ultimate clean, especially for a pedal platform and a fuller sound on stage, the Hot Rod Deluxe would be where I go. And the Blackface is going to be where I get that kind of grittier, you know, get that 22 watts cooking a little bit, get that clean on the edge of the breakup a little bit. So there you go. A lot of people like the clean on that better. I think there's some validity to that. But to me, you wanted me to characterize them. I'm going to say the Hot Rod Deluxe better clean. The Hot Rod Deluxe has more distortion on tap because it has the other channel. Although I'm not a huge fan of the Hot Rod Deluxe's distortion, and I wouldn't say that that's the selling point of that amp. Although I've played it and it's been fine. And this, I don't want to lose any of those questions. Filtered Waters, just want to say hi. Thanks, Filtered Waters. I appreciate that. Okay, hold on. We're going to go back. Sometimes you need to go back to go forward. So we're going into the, there we go, into the old, into a queue. I have a queue. All right. Anthony Xavier Jackson says, can you talk to us about Electrical Guitar Company, aluminum guitars, thoughts on aluminum guitars and costs? I don't know anything about that. My experience with aluminum guitars over the years is there's been a couple of companies that have done them. And every time I've put my hands on an aluminum guitar, it has weighed a crap ton. It's just like the heaviest Les Paul ever. And you just pick it up and you're like, yeah, no. And they usually drill a lot of holes through them, but I don't know who Electrical Guitar Co. is. But I am willing to Google search it to see what we can come up with. But I really try to be more open-minded than this, but I have tried the aluminum guitar thing a couple times and to no avail. It's just been, so here they are, the finest aluminum instruments made. They look gorgeous. Are they actually aluminum necks as well? Let's go to models. Oh, no, I want to go to buy. I want to see classic models. I'll show you guys in 1 second as soon as I find something that's worth looking at here. Select the model. And, of course, they're $3,000. That's okay. I don't know what I'm looking at. I'm going to show you, though. Here we go. So you guys see, this is what I'm looking at. Here's this guitar. It's $3,000. You can select the next, we're going to say thin and 24 3/4. Oh, you can select. Okay, so they're right-handed, so they're obviously pretty custom. I'm not seeing where it pictures. Let's go to models. So this guitar is $3,000. They're aluminum. Looks like aluminum necks. Obviously, we've seen this. Oh, yeah. See, like this is back in the Kramer days. Remember when they had the aluminum? You know, I don't know. I've never owned one of those guitars. Some of the players that have been around a little longer than me might chime in on this. I had heard that some of those old aluminum fork necks, when people are playing on stage, the stage lights would make the necks hot. I don't know how that they could get that hot, but I do know this. I did have an interesting story about a composite guitar once. I once sold a Rain Song black acoustic composite guitar to a guy who was playing on stage in Arizona, and not in the summertime, but just in the wintertime. But that's okay. And he said the heat from the sun actually made it so hot he couldn't even touch the guitar because he was on stage during the day. And I always thought that was funny. And I thought, well, maybe that's the downfall of an aluminum guitar. It's going to soak in that heat. But I mean, the odds of that are pretty rare. Let's see. Sarang, I'm going to say Sarang. Sarang says, hey, Phil, maybe you answered this before, but what do you think about digital modeling amps, specifically the Axe-Fx? Also, any chance you'll try out an Axe-Fx 3 sometime? No, I'm not going to try an Axe-Fx, but I will tell you what I am interested in, and if Axe-Fx ever wants to make it. What I'm interested in is a expensive, high-end, amazing Axe-Fx amplifier. I don't want an Axe-Fx. That's what I've just come to the conclusion. I don't want rack mount gear. It's just something I just don't want. So I'm not the consumer for that. Axe-Fx on the floor pedal, that yes, if I ever get an Axe FX, I will tell you right now, it'll be an AFX or an whatever the ground pedal is. That's what I'll look at. But really, what I would like to see is Axe FX finally come out with like a 112 combo amp that just has an amazing plethora of sounds, and that's what I'm more interested in. Is something that I can just have and practice with and sounds great, and maybe take to a small gig. Let them get into my Roland Cube 40, get into those kind of worlds. But if it's more expensive, I understand, but make it better. That's what I want. Same with what's the other one? Kemper. Right. I just don't want freestanding units that sit on top of amps. That's not what I'm interested in. So something like that, more of an amplifier platform. So maybe a head, but probably an actual amplifier. Because to me, where Axe FX gets me excited is when somebody says, Phil, why have all this stuff behind you? You can have it all in one place. And I'm like, but see, Axe FX isn't that opportunity for me. It's not just take something and go. I can tell you right now, if a buddy said, come over and jam right now, I can take at least 1 or 2 or 3 of these amps, no pedals, and go with that amp and a guitar and go jam and have some fun. And I could take a pedal board right now and jam with somebody and go plug it in front of their clean amp and go right now. But the Axe FX to me is like a whole process, just like this stuff is a process. So if it's a process, I'm not interested in it. Although I love that you guys love it, just not for me. So I want a digital modeling Axe FX amplifier, and I think that'll be the smart thing to do. And hopefully they won't cheese out and just make a $99 one. I want a nice modeling amplifier. Okay, Requiem Dead says, hey Phil, I'm stripping the paint off a guitar and sanding it down. I want to do a satin finish. Any advice? Also, I plan on buying StewMac products. Well, I like StewMac. Obviously, I'm a fan of StewMac, although their stuff's super expensive. As you guys know, I'll links to their stuff a lot of times, and you guys are like, man, stuff's pricey. I agree. I pay what you guys pay. StewMac could hook me up with some pickups, but I don't have like a relationship that gets me free StewMac stuff. Or a discount. Maybe if StewMac ever watches this, I'm up for that, guys. So my wife never has been excited about anything except for when I met with StewMac that day. They're like, maybe you'll get a deal on all that crazy expensive tools. And maybe, but like I said, I still use their stuff, even though I pay full price. But like you guys, if I can find something that's at StewMac that's not at StewMac for less money, I do that as well. I mean, that's just the honesty of it. So I buy StewMac when I think it's important, and I save some money when I think that's important, and I make the best decision for me. And I think you guys should do the same. But for satin finish, it depends on the type of wood. Sometimes you can use a beeswax. Sometimes you can use a gun stock oil. It depends on the type of wood. If it's an alder body, if it's a babinga body, you're saying you're taking the paint off something. It implies to me it's going to probably be a mahogany body, an alder body, ash body, or basswood, poplar. Probably those are the 5 that you could be dealing with. So it depends on the pores and of the wood. And okay, Mathis says, are 2015 Gibson necks too wide for me? Like 60s and 58 neck. Mathis, I bought 2 Gibsons this week. They're right there. That's my SG, 2018 SG, 2008 Gibson Les Paul. And what I've noticed is, and this is the biggest, probably negative thing I could say about Gibson for me as a consumer. Their necks are so radically all over the place. I feel like there's no continuity in their necks. I think I feel like I'm just either I'm crazy or they're crazy. Somebody's crazy, because every time somebody says this is a 60s neck, it's different. Every time I say somebody's a 50s neck, the description on one of these guitars, he said not a 60s or not a 50s neck. And you know what? He's right. It's slightly thinner than the 50s, slightly thinner than the 60s, something different. So it's always different. This SG is like a 6, whatever this 2000, I got to go to the specs, but it's a 2018 model. That neck feels wider and different than a normal 60s neck. It's, again, different. Every time I put my hands on a Gibson guitar neck, they're different. Now, if you can put in the comments, I'm sure you guys are typing right now, but Phil, they're handmade. They hand sand the necks. They hand this. Right. but so does everybody else. Everybody hand sends the necks. No machines hand send the necks. PRS, which is heavily machined operated, are hand done. Ibanez necks, if you could watch videos of the Fujijin factory, they cut those necks by hand and shape them by hand. There's still more consistency. Gibson's consistency for necks is really crazy. And I don't even blame like quality assurance or employees. I think they just spec them different every year. It's like Gibson every year is like, let's try this kind of neck and maybe make this kind of neck work for a little while. And how about that neck for a little while? It's like, and let's try. And so it's almost like, here's my problem. I have a 2005 Gibson Les Paul with a C-shaped kind of neck. And I love that neck so much that every time I pick up every Les Paul, no Les Pauls feel like that. So it's just this random one-year neck where here's a 2018 Strat. Here's a 2000, I think that's a 15 Strat. I have a 2012 Strat. I have a 2009 Strat. The necks are all somewhat alike. Even the new Professional series, that one, where the neck's slightly thicker and different. It's different, but still familiar. So it's weird to me that Gibson's so inconsistent with its neck feel to where I almost can't buy Gibsons online anymore, which is what I did. I feel like I just got randomness. So I'm no help to you in your question, and I feel horrible about that. So, here's my best advice to everyone, especially after my purchases this week, which I'll be doing the review of the SG next week, the 2018 SG. But here, you got to buy Gibsons. You got to touch them. There's just no way. I've tried to map it out in my head, ask all the questions I can when buying, do everything I can. And what I get every time is just something that feels totally different. So next question is from Nick. Says, any thoughts on the, I don't know, OGRE pedals? Cheers from Mexico. Nope. I don't know what those are. Sounds familiar. Hold on a second. I'm just going to search real fast. I love it when you guys find stuff that's crazy and cool. What is this? Oh, yeah. You know what? I had a feeling this was, and I just saw one on somebody's pedal board on a Instagram or somewhere. Here, I got to show you guys. I saw this at the NAMM show when they came out, and, I made fun of it probably like everybody else. This is what he's talking about, guys. Yep, those are guitar pedals. Yes. So here's my opinion. I didn't consider them. I walked by them. I saw them at the NAMM show. I scuffed at them because I go, oh, cool. And then I saw the price and I go, no, that's real money. So I thought for $50 is kind of cool. I'm seriously, no insult to anyone. I've never tried one. I couldn't tell you what they sound like. They could probably be the best sounding pedal ever. I just saw them, saw the price and thought, no, this isn't like for me. So it's all right. But yeah, they're probably amazing. Perfect. That's perfect. Perfect example. What I always tell people, it's in your eye, then in your ear. All gear is that way. First, you see it, you like it because you know what way it looks. Then you listen to it in your eye, then in your ear. I even knowing that I'm just as guilty. Knowing stuff doesn't make you any smarter. Sometimes you're still susceptible to your own, belief systems. Bubba says, hey, Phil, I'm looking at replacing the 2 single coils and 1 humbucker in my Sterling Silhouette. What should I use for classic rock metal? You know what? I really like DiMarzio's in Music Man's. For some reason, it's just, I love DiMarzio's in Ibanez's and Music Man's, even though some of my Ibanez's have Duncans. Oh no, you know what? I've removed the Duncans out of my one Ibanez. So all my Ibanez's, I believe, now have DiMarzio's again. So I would go with something DiMarzio's. Classic rock metal. I mean, come on, man. You got a full shred. You put the full shred in the bridge, put some injectors. Those Paul Gilbert pickups are pretty good in the middle and neck position. Or, you know what, I really, they don't make them anymore, do they? What's whatever you're gonna have to look it up, but whatever the Yngwie Malmsteen pickups were, those are freaking great too. But they're not the Yngwies anymore. There's something else. So you put that in the middle of the bridge, a fret in the middle in the neck, put a fret in the bridge, or a super distortion. But of course, if any of you guys have that guitar and have pickups, please put suggestions in the comments. Right? You guys, I'm doing it off of just guessing and what I think might work, but sometimes you guys know Oh yeah. Judas Priest guitarist has. That's where it was. Thank you, three tone Sally. Yes, it was a rig rundown, right? So it was the guitar player for Judas Priest had the pedal. Yes, thank you. I knew I just saw it, and I remember thinking like, oh, that's that weird pedal. So that was awesome. We have Shawbucker and a Strat. I don't know if that was a question. I have Shawbuckers in that Strat. So if you guys know, that's stock, 2 Shawbuckers. Love the Shawbuckers. There's something about them I like, and there's something about them that, I don't love. To me, they do, you know what it is? Shawbuckers have this magic tone, except for high gain saturation. They get a weird overtone to them. So since I don't use a whole lot of high gain saturation, I use them a lot. But when I want high gain, I kind of go to something else. Okay, Jason Wade says, have you ever reviewed Diamond guitars? How do they stack up compared to the other mid-price guitars? I have. I reviewed my Bolero guitar that I did, and it was really good. The Diamond guitars are made in Korea. They definitely vibe like the Schecters and all those other kind of guitars. Their resale value is not as good, so looking at them used is always a good idea for those guitars, but they are very good, and they are unique looking for some of the guitars they like. Some people confuse them because there was all those kind of Diamond was DBZ, and then before DBZ was something else. Was it DBZ first? What did it go to? It was like DBZ, whatever. It's just a lot of stuff, but Diamond is good. Jeff is the owner. He's a cool dude, cool cat, cool guitars. Like I said, really liked it. Miguel once said, hey, Phil, what happened to your Grandmeister 40? What do you mean? It's not. Yeah. You know what? I like it so much it's in the bedroom now. In fact, you want to know what happened to the Grandmeister 40? The Mesa, I can't see because I'm not looking at myself like you guys. Okay. This Mesa Mark 25 that's sitting on my Archon, right? So it's not on a cabinet. That's what I was playing in the bedroom forever, was my Mark 5 25 through the Mesa cabinet. And the Grandmeister kind of migrated itself into the bedroom, and then the Mark 5 came out. So I haven't using it a lot. I plan on reviewing it. I saw Tyler Larson's review today. It was really good. The song he wrote was killer. Tones were killer. My review is going to be very different of the Grandmeister than everybody else's. There's a couple issues with the Grandmeister. A lot of people have sent me emails because they knew I had it for this while with their issues that they've had with it. And I'm going to show you the issues. There's some issues. Not bad, just, some things that when you try it, you should be aware of, because it does a lot of things great. And it does a couple of things that are strange. And sometimes when you buy an amp like that, and you can return it, but your return window is pretty short, you can't spend the time with it to discover how to kind of get certain sounds out of it. I had to learn to I'll just tell you right now, it doesn't like Strats. And for a guy like me who likes Strats, it was a little troublesome, but I found a way for it to like Strats. And I don't mean like found a way like it's passable and I'm okay with it now. No, you got to spend some time with the amp. It's a really intense amplifier. It's got a learning curve. So, not a Meister of all trades. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Master. Yeah, it's good. Okay. Gallium something, I can't say it, man. I'm sorry. He says, can you do a Google Hangout with Jeff Diamond? We talked about doing that. If I do it, what I'd like to do? Probably one with him and TK, the Tone King, and do a hang like that. Speaking of which, that's another thing on my list today. Like, I got a list. I'm so almost professional. Tonight, there's a live YouTube summit and Shane and the Blues channel. It'll be the Tone King, Pixie Licks, Shane and the Blues. Brent Mason and the Guitar Geek. He's a small channel if you don't know him. I am not joining them because it is Mother's Day weekend, and I'm going to spend some time with my wife on this weekend because it's her weekend and not for me, not for Gear Talk. So I can't. So that's why I passed on that. But if you guys our wives are okay with you watching the Hangout tonight and not killing you for not that that's my problem. I just want to spend some time with my family. But so please check it out. I'll put a link to the thing in case you're watching this. You know it's tonight. Please check them out. Obviously, a great hang. I would have killed to be with those guys a little bit. So do that as well, and then let Tone King know that maybe me, him, and Jeff need to do a hangout. Billy Robertson says my 412 cabinet is 4 ohms in mono, and my Hughes and Kittner is 8 to 16 ohms. The speakers in the cabinet are 16 ohms. Okay, they're 16 ohm speakers. Okay, should I rewire it? Absolutely. You can't run your 8 to 16 ohm amp into 4 ohms. So yes. And your if you have 412 cabinet with 16 ohm speakers, 4 16 ohm speakers, you can wire that cabinet to be a 16 ohm cabinet, or you can wire that cabinet to be 4 ohm cabinet. I would go ahead and wire it to be 16 ohm cabinet. And it's all based on the information I'm seeing in front of me right here with you. There could be other options. I'm not looking in the Hughes and Kettner manual, of course, of your amp, and I'm not looking in the manual of your cabinet. But based on that information, if your amp can only do 8 or 16 ohms, do not run it into a 4 ohm cabinet. Okay, so run it, rewire the cabinet for 16 ohms. Should be nothing more than a quick Google search on the internet for how to wire your 412 16 ohms and do it that way. So there you go. Hope that helps. Bruce says, help! Exclamation point. I have saddles on my Tele Aerodyne, and setting the action properly makes the screws stick out a lot and they hit me in the hand a lot. Yes, that's my thing. I hate that. So there's different ways to do this. I will just tell you the way I do it. It's the way I like to do it. I remove each screw, Allen screw, out of the saddles. First I measure them, then I pull them out, then I put them on a special vise I have that doesn't dent or damage them, and then I have a Dremel with a blade on it, and I cut them down, reshape them, and put them back. You cannot cut them. You can't like use any kind of cutters or anything, because you can't crush anything, because then it won't rethread correctly. But that's how I do it. Now, you might be able to go online and find shorter versions of those screws. They're pretty standard. If it's the import saddles, which it should be, you should be able to find a saddle. But that's how I cut them down. You unfortunately cannot pull them out and file them down, because usually they're too hard and it takes too long. If you misshape them, they're going to be a pain in the butt. But yes, cutting them down to size is how I do it. If that's important to you, Bruce, I will do a video on how to do that and maybe give you a couple of suggestions on that. I have a huge hang up with that. I don't like anything to poke or kind of damage my hands. And that is another thing that kind of ties me into something else. So I had, we mentioned last week, doing a review of the Dually by Lace. That's not going to happen, unfortunately. If you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, you saw that I put a video out that this week I got the Dually pickup and it was defective. Here is where I stand on that. About a month or two ago, I bought those Lace pickups right there in that Strat, red, silver, and blue from Guitar Center. I got a good deal. I think it was like $100 or $150 for all three. It was cheap. It was like cheaper, but I had to get in the white color. And I had a set in cream, if you look at the old videos, and I sold them because I wanted the white ones. And when those came, it was like they didn't smooth the plastic right. So it was like plastic barbs on it, and it was cutting into my hand. So I had to take an X-Acto knife and like shave them and do all this work to them. And I was like, all right, that's what you got to do. So I did that, put them in the guitar. And then I ordered the Dually so I could review the two, and the Dually came in defective. It was if you watch the video, it was a disaster. Here's what I've decided. That Dually cost me $100. I think those cost me like $150. That's $250 in pickups, and all of them, all four pickups were defective from Lace. I sent Lace an email. I included the clip of the video. It has been over 24 hours, not a long time, but 24 hours. I haven't heard back from them. Obviously, the retailer is taking care of me. They're returning the pickup. But to me, I'm just done. I'm going to keep these Lace pickups. I like them. I highly recommend that you don't buy Lace unless you check it out. That seems to be too many issues. Because believe it or not, I bought those pickups and the Dually from two different retailers on two different sides of the country with with at least a 2-month period difference between them. So I don't know how bad the batches are right now, but doesn't look too great from Lace. So am I a Lace fan still? Yes, because I want the Lace sound, which is that guitar. But here's what I can tell you though. I do have some good news. I was able to mess with the dually a little bit. And what I can tell you was it sounds exactly, the red dually sounds exactly like the red Lace single, but a little bassier, not fatter, but bassier. So I was able to use the tone control on that self-esteem booster to mimic it with that pickup. I was really impressed. So I was like, wow, I don't need to spend $100. So I don't know. Maybe we'll hear from Lace. I kind of want to hear to see how Lace is. I want to see how the customer service is, because that seems like to me, if that's the problem I'm having, there could be other problems. So it's hard to recommend something when you're not having the best. Okay, so Bruce says, reason saddles. Should I just get different saddles that don't use those type of set screws? Bruce, you can, but you're still going to be coming across that problem. So, you know what I mean? It's tough, because I'm pretty sure if you have the Aerodyne Tele, right? That's a set neck guitar. So you can't shim the neck and change the angle and then raise the saddles, which is not something I'd recommend you do anyways, but it's always an option. You're going to have to cut those set screws or find different ones. I wouldn't buy new saddles. Let me work on a video idea. I know you're having the problem right now. For now, maybe just put a piece of nice painter's tape or something over it, so it doesn't poke your hand. I'll need a week to kind of work out the video idea. It's something I think a lot of people have problems with, and it could be a cool video, although I don't think we'll get a ton of views. That's not always the goal on this channel, right? It's about sharing information. I really think I can show you how to quickly do this, like a Sharpen Max video, in the idea of like minimal tools. How do you correct that problem? Let me work out the ideas this weekend. And sometimes it's nice to hear, or be reminded that there's a problem and that we can kind of, and it's a cool video. Either way, I'll probably do it. Shut Up, Let's Talk says, talk about the importance of adjusting the truss rod and setting the action instead of the bridge. Well, the truss rod it's important, of course, but adjusting the truss rod to set the action is not ideal. I did a video once where I was adjusting the truss rod, and they were like, hey, I got so many comments about how you shouldn't adjust the truss rod to set action. And I'm like, I don't really believe that, but you need to make sure your neck is somewhat straight with just a little bit of relief. Everybody's neck's different. Every guitar is different. We can generalize, but it's still a generalization. So that being said, it is important to adjust your truss rod. That is just a hard thing to just say flat out do or don't do. In fact, I just had an issue today with the green Strat. I set it up and it was great. And then it just needed some relief in the truss rod today. The neck was bone straight and was playing great for a couple of days until it wasn't, So Bob Crosley says, hey, Phil, can you recommend a humbucker similar tonally to the PRS 8515, hoping for something decent in the $125, $100 range pickup? I don't know, because I have the 8515 and it seems it's got a different sound to it. And I know like that's the big deal, right? Paul Smith won't sell that pickup. He says it's the pickup he wishes he made back in 1985 when he started the company. But at the PRS event, this is a horrible answer, Bob, but I promise this because you probably want to answer more now. But that's a question I really plan to take to the PRS event. Like, how do you get this sound? How do you, I'm not that I expect them to go, oh, just buy this pickup for $50 and you'll have it. But I'm sure we can find something. Maybe that's a better, instead of a pickup comparison, maybe pick up shootouts. I don't know. It's tough. That's tough. But the 8515s I have, they sound very unique. I don't have another guitar that sounds like them. In fact, I'll tell you something about the 8515s that I find really unique. When I plug into my amps with a guitar with the 8515s, because I have two guitars with 8515s, they have a volume to them. There's really a lot of power and volume coming to the amp. And even though I can plug in 5 other guitars or 10 other guitars and they all sound great, it's like the volume drops. There's something about the output level of those pickups. And when I mean output, I don't mean like how much they push the amp to distort. I mean output, like actual output, the amp is louder. So there's something there. So that's why I'm having trouble trying to detect another pickup, because in my current collection of pickups, which is pretty in depth throughout the guitars, I don't have anything like them. So, but I would imagine there's something out there because I don't think he invented something from scratch. He copied something he likes. Paul Reed Smith guitars, like somebody's like, yeah, what did he ever invent? I go, I don't think he invents anything, right? I think he's just really good at finding things he likes and either recreating it or making it like 1% better, right? It's like he's the one up guy. He takes what you got and he one ups it. So Craig says, you're a classy guy. Hey, thank you. I'm going to make sure my wife sees this part. The world needs more like you. Thanks for your efforts on this channel. God bless. Thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That feels good. You know what I mean? It's nice to hear good stuff. I like it. You know, it's nice to get positive feedback. I appreciate that so much. Okay. There's 950 of us hanging out, by the way. That's a lot of us. I didn't even know that. According to the internet, there's not even that many guitar players left anymore. How could we possibly have 950 of us if there's only like 800 guitar players left? So, okay, Bruce, it says, okay, so it says, what do you think of the string Butler on Gibsons to fix the nut binding? So we talked about that before once, Bruce, and I said I had a concern with it, and thanks to you guys that have them sending me emails, I feel pretty confident that it's a good suggestion to try. I don't have a need for a string Butler, but now that I've said that, maybe I'll email String Butler and see if they wanted to send me one to check out and do a video. I will definitely review it if they send me one. The problem I have is, well, maybe I could buy one. I can't imagine it's too crazy expensive. The problem is it's just not something I'd rather, because I can tell you right now, even in reviewing it, even if it's the greatest invention ever, I'm probably still not going to use it because I don't have any guitars that they're not staying in tune. They're fine. But if they send me one, maybe it's something I could check out and then, you know, do a giveaway or something with it. But I'll reach out to them. If they're not interested, then I'll have to buy it. That's how it works. But it seems pretty cool. Daryl Broom Guitars did a video of it. I can link his video to it. He seems to like it a lot. But my concern was it could damage the finish or hurt the finish. And I got a lot of emails when I asked about that from people who have it saying, no, it's lifted off the finish. It shouldn't do anything to damage the finish or do anything. So there you go. My personal thing is, before I would do the string Butler, which is why if I do a video, I'll talk about that. The nut is, again, the issue. So before I would worry about a contraption, I would just make sure I have a perfectly cut and lubricated nut. And I would imagine if you still have an issue, there you go. We talk about the Gibson design issue, with the angle and the wide spacing and all that. But again, once it's cut correctly, it seems to be fine. I'm curious. Like I said, I'm curious. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'll put it on and I'll be like, this is the greatest thing ever. So it's like headgear for your guitar. Okay, Alex says, Phil, ever played any Ingle amps? Yep, I've owned 2 Ingle amps. I own the 2 Meister 18. Is that right? 2 Meister 18. And I had not the Fireball. What's the small one? The Iron Ball. The 2 Meister. Is it the 2 Meister? Or am I thinking Hughes and Kittner? What did I have? Hold on. Let me look. It's been years. I know you're mentioning the Powerball. That's not what I had. It was their inexpensive. Here's the issue. It didn't have a very Ingle sound to it. It's not the 2 Meister. What is it? It was 18 watts though. Sometimes Ingle amps. Okay, so I had an Iron Ball. I dug it. I got rid of the Iron Ball to get the Rectoverb, is what I did. So the Iron Ball, again, the bigger amps weren't really appealing to me. The issue with the Iron Ball for me was it didn't have reverb. So that's what I did. It was a great amp, but it didn't have reverb. Before that, though, the one I had, which was the less expensive, the Gig Meister. That's what I had, the Gig Meister. And I thought mine was an 18-watt Gig Meister. And I'm pretty sure I was right. And that, I think, had reverb, but it didn't have that Ingle sound. And then when I talked to the Ingle guy, the Ingle rep, after I bought mine and stuff, he was mentioning that it was like a different sound, that they were going for a different kind of bluesy or rock tone. It was great, but it wasn't that thick, saturated Ingle tone that I thought I was going to get. So those are the Ingle amps that I've had and why. Okay. Wyatt 5870 says, "Hey Phil, took my ESP NV to a reputable luthier with a low E buzz. He quoted me $650 for a fret level, and well, I hope you didn't do it, or replace the three-way switch. Did I overpay? Did you really pay him that? Oh, rat him out. That's horrible. $650. Yes. Yeah, think of it this way. Break it down. Oh, man, why are you bumming me out, man? I hope to goodness you didn't pay that, right? You got that quote and you left. And you super chatted me. I need to super chat you back. I feel bad. Okay, so to answer your question, every luthiers, repair centers, luthiers, techs, whatever, it's a demographic thing, right? Where you live is what you pay. So I've heard when I ask a simple question like, "What do you pay for a setup?" Some people in the United States will say, some will say $40, some will say 30, some will say 80, some will say 100, and it depends where you live. Where I live, minimum wage is $10.50 an hour. Okay, so I say that because some places are less and some places are more, and that's a driving force for what people charge. To me, and I know you're talking about Crown and Level and all those services, but to me, it's hourly wages, right? So what are you paying per hour? $100 an hour, I would think would be on the high end for a repair center, right? So if I say, "Hey, pay $100 an hour," so if they say, "Okay, fret level and replace a three-way switch and a setup," right? So usually when you do a fret level, if you do a fret level, you include it in the price of a setup because you got to set it up once you level the frets, right? I say should because I once had a crazy thing happen to me. I had a customer come in and they brought me a guitar with no strings and they said, "I need a setup." And I said, "Okay." And they said, "I just had it leveled and crown and leveled." And I go, "Okay. And you took the strings off?" And they go, "No, they crown and leveled, gave it back to me and told me it was going to be additional for a setup." I was like, "Well, you can't." So crazy stories are always out there. But anyways, back to this importance of what your problem is. So a crown and level should take an hour and a half to 2 hours, right? And include the setup. So let's say 2 hours. If they were charging $100 an hour, that's $200. I've heard people say a crown and level could cost $250. That's, again, high and low is depending on where you are and what, I've never charged anything close to that. I would love to get that rate. That would be awesome. But refrets usually where I live, refrets can now get quoted in the $200 and $250 range for a total refret. And of course, you refret, you are crown and level and setting up a three-way switch. Electronics, it depends on the place. I would expect to pay $25 for a switch to be replaced. Some people right now are going to go, "What? I paid 10," and some people are like, "Wow, I paid 50." Again, it's going to be a little over all over the place, but that number you're quoting, 650, just sounds exorbitantly high unless there's just something in there we don't know about. You know what I mean? But I can't imagine that price. So the important part is I hope at least the work was fantastic. And so please, good wishes to you. I hope the work was fantastic. If not, message me, send it to me or something. Let me know anything I can do to help. Yeah, because that's pretty crazy. Okay, two things. One, let's look for a couple more questions. And let me look on my list. I have stuff. Okay, mentioned Digitech. Okay, the Mark Tremonti amp pushback. We didn't talk about that, but last week, I guess they're pushing back the delivery of the second ones or to push that back to June. So, well, that's the only good news is hopefully they'll have them at the PRS event. I'll be checking out the Mark Tremonti amp at the PRS event. So, and we're going to do this last super chat and then I'm going to hit a couple. What manufacturer, this is from Bubba, what manufacturer would you suggest for a neck replacement for a Strat style body other than Warmoth? I really like Warmoth. Okay. I know some people have trouble with the price of Warmoth. The one thing I say about Warmoth, in my opinion, although I've seen maybe a bad Warmoth neck, I've heard stories of bad Warmoth necks. I think Warmoth can make a neck as good as a Fender neck. I think their quality is that good. I've seen a lot of stuff. There's a ton of companies that do it. There's Mighty Mite. I think Mighty Mite, I'm pretty sure, is owned by Court Guitars, and so there's that. There's tons of this stuff, right? Other than Warmoth, so the problem is, what do I suggest for besides Warmoth? I don't have a suggestion that I've used. I've put them on guitars because people brought them into me, and I've never had a problem. You know, some Mighty Might necks, All Parts necks. I know Stu Mac has necks. I know everybody has necks out there. And then the unnamed necks are just a mile deep. In fact, there's so many on eBay now, it's hard to keep track. But here's my personal thing. So you know, whether, you know, Bubba, since you asked, when it comes to replacement Strat necks, I like Fender necks. That's what I use. So if I had to replace a Strat neck with a neck, I would buy a Fender neck. You know why? I like Mexican-made necks as much as Warmoth necks. Go on stratosphere.com or eBay and find yourself a used Mexican's neck. I think Fender will sell a Mexican neck for what, $300, $250? Somebody help me out. $200? What is it? I thought it was $200. It's been, yeah, $199. So $200 for a Fender neck. And what Fender does is they'll serial number them for you. So it's like, it comes with the Fender logo and serial numbered, and it's great. If 21 frets isn't going to work for you, you need 22. You know, there's a ton of other necks. I don't know any other cool necks, although I got a kit coming from Crimson Guitars, and I got a Tele kit coming. It's got a Tele neck, so maybe that's a suggestion if I check out their necks. Okay. And yeah, Carbon used to have necks. Yeah. Oh yeah. You know, I forgot. Yeah. Now that Kiesel's pretty much guitars, they don't really do a whole lot of necks as much or at all. Yeah. And then Wago saying Crimson Guitars are nice. We'll see. Like I said, I'm very excited. I've heard nothing but good things. So, you know, it gets a little creepy when you're going to review something that everybody loves, because you're like, you know, it gets hyped. But, you know, I think the hype's worth it. Okay. Yeah, somebody's saying they can't wait for the Crimson Guitars review. Great. I appreciate that. I'm excited too. All right. So on that note, I think we're going to call it. It's we've done it for an hour. It's a good QA. There's 983 of us. That was awesome. Thank you guys so much. Richard, I'm going to end on this just because it's Mother's Day and it's funny. Richard Scott Oak says, Phil, have you ever had an argument with your wife over a guitar purchase? Okay. Yes and no. So the answer is my wife doesn't really seem to care what I do, except for one thing. She doesn't like me to buy guitars and then shove money into them. So the only argument is when I try to convince my wife how if I buy this guitar and I fix it up, I'm going to love it. So she's really in tune with what I say. When I say, oh, this guitar plays fantastic, I love it. You know what I mean? She's like, yep, there you go. But if I say, oh, if I do this to this guitar, it'll be great. She's known me long enough. She knows that's kind of silly. So that's the only really arguments to that. Although, funny enough, not an argument, but for a couple weeks ago or months ago, I was looking at a bass guitar, and I mentioned that to my friend that I shouldn't get it. And when I got home and I told it to her, she's like, "Yeah, you're a little stocked up right now." Right? It's a little much now for her because of the YouTube reviewing process. You know how I review stuff, and I move slow. Like I told you guys, I like to spend time with the stuff. It kind of gunks up here, man. I'm not going to lie. There's some guitars in the hallway and guitar stands in a row right now that she's just like, this is crazy. I'm like, I'm getting to them. As soon as I review them, they'll be gone. I promise. So, yep. All right. Thank you guys so much. That was a great QA. I had a blast. A couple things to note that are important is, if you guys don't know, I just remind you, these are also podcasts. So I'll upload this today. It'll be on iTunes somewhat tomorrow and on SoundCloud today. So there you go. If you guys want to download them and listen to them, I will time index them. I want to thank everyone who does the Patreon to make these happen. These events are sponsored by the patrons. In fact, I'll do a sharing screen to share the list. Here you guys go. These are the guys that literally and gals that make this happen. And we have a couple new ones. Brian Stewart, Lee Hawkins, Kermit Jackson, Andy Thomas, Steve Penna, Bob Crosley, Aaron Anthony, Daniel, I'm going to say Psychic, but it's probably Psychic. I don't know. I'm sorry, buddy, if I'm saying it wrong. Andrew Good, Billy Robson, William Donaldson, Anthony Desposito, BB Ninja, and Tony. I'm going to say Goyburn. I don't know, man. I hate it when I mess up you guys' names. Please always feel free to email me and let me know if I'm jacking that up. No one likes their name mispronounced. And I don't do it intentionally, I promise. Anyways, those are the new ones. I want to thank everybody again every week for hanging out with me and doing this. It's awesome. And next week, I got some special stuff planned. And I think you'll be excited about it. So, and when it comes to more content next week, we got heavy metal content because we got a lot of stuff going. So, as always, thank you guys so much for your time. And until next time, know your gear.